Ever found your room to be a little bit chilly? Maybe it's a cold winter day and you're too lazy to put on more clothes. Why not check out the Acer Nitro 5 Spin, which is kind of a heater. You can tell by how red it is. Well, more seriously, it does get pretty warm, but at least it's bearable here in the Arctic country of Canada. More concerning to me is the trackpad performance. Check out my attempt to draw a straight line in MS Paint. Yeah, I spent weeks researching a laptop to take with me on my trip, and I thought I'd finally settled on this one. On paper, it had what I was looking for, a balance of price and specification with an 8th Gen Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM, a 1080p display, and GTX 1050. Most important to me was all of this was available in a 2-in-1 system. I wanted pen input. So let's start with what I really liked about this. First of all, I really liked the port selection. You have a USB-C port, USB 3 ports, HDMI port, an SD card reader, and a headphone jack. And that is so much better than the vast majority of 2-in-1s out there today. The next thing I really liked about this laptop is the typing experience. The keys are clicky, have good travel, and feel very responsive. I was able to type at about 90 words per minute, which is a little bit below my average, but I feel like once I got used to the keyboard, I'd be able to type a lot faster. Finally, the last thing I was really surprised by actually is the build quality of this laptop. I knew from reading other reviews that it had a metal chassis, but I didn't expect it to feel so solid. There's almost no flex to the screen, the hinges are very solid to open and close, and it feels like a high quality device. And I think it's pretty nice looking with its gamer red accents, which I know are cliché. The unboxing of the computer was a little bit underwhelming to say the least. Inside of the box, you'll find the laptop wrapped in fabric with 2 ugly, soft foam supports holding it in place. And then there's a smaller box beside that has the power cable. That's it. No active pen is included despite this laptop supporting one. At this point, I wasn't exactly worried about the unboxing experience though, because in the end it doesn't matter so long as the product works fine, right? Setup was very straightforward. I haven't set up a brand new computer in a long time, so I was surprised to find this strange lady yelling instructions at me.
Hi there, I'm Cortana, and I'm here to help. A little sign in here, a touch of Wi-Fi there, and we'll have your PC ready for all you plan to do.
This scares me.
You can use your voice or the keyboard along the way, and if you'd like me to stay quiet, just select the sound icon.
Seriously, Microsoft? And you default the volume to 75%? This brings me to the first issue that I had with the laptop, which is the speaker quality. If you're a heavy gamer or a media consumer, these speakers are subpar at best. They have decent amount of clarity, but they lack any bass despite this computer advertising having a subwoofer. I also noticed that there's a little bit of fuzz at high volumes, and it almost sounds like one of my speakers is loose. Needless to say, right away my confidence in this computer was not so high. Anyways, while Windows was updating, I poked around a bit, tried the touchscreen, which works pretty well, flipped it into tablet mode, again remarking how nice I think the build is, and got my fingerprints all over that metal case. The screen itself was a bit of a letdown too. There's massive amount of backlight bleed, especially up here along the top edge, and colors are overly vibrant. I wasn't expecting too much based on other reviews saying that this has like 80 or 90% of RGB, but this is kind of pushing it. I mean, visually it looks nice, but if you're going to be editing photos, this is probably not the screen for you, and because of the backlight bleed, the contrast isn't as high as I would want for watching media. It's usable, but it's definitely far from the best, and even put side by side with my Dell desktop monitor, which is like 6 or 7 years old at this point, I definitely prefer the way the Dell looks. Given the thinness of this laptop, I did expect it to get warm under load, and quite honestly, it didn't get as hot as I expected. I thought maybe it would get over 70 Celsius, but it stuck under 70 and without throttling. I can't exactly speak for the i7 model, which I imagine gets quite a bit hotter than this, but the i5 maintained fairly decent thermals, albeit the fan does get quite loud, as in jet engine loud. After running AIDA64 for about half hour, it was at 68 Celsius, with the fans running full blast. No signs of thermal throttling were detected by the benchmark software, so that's good. Outside on the case though, it does get very hot. I measured about 38 Celsius up by where the fans are, and the WADS keys were around 34-35 Celsius, which is warm enough to make you sweat. Keep in mind that it is winter here too, and it's not particularly hot in my house, so that could keep thermals cool, and I imagine that if this laptop is in any sort of sunlight, it will get too hot and it will thermally throttle. I would not expect to overclock this machine because the BIOS is very simple and there's virtually no options on it. I'm not exactly a gamer, so I didn't know what other benchmarks to run. I ran a Firmark with a 2499 score, and then again with a 2494 score, so that's pretty consistent and that'll give you an idea of where it benchmarks. If you'd like to see any other benchmarks, please let me know before I return this. The configuration I got cost about 1200 Canadian, and it came with both the 256GB SSD and the 1TB hard drive, which I really liked, especially since I'm planning to edit videos on the go. The SSD benchmarked reasonably quickly, but the hard drive is a slower 5400 RPM hard drive. To be honest, I really do like this laptop. I like how thin it is, I like the feel of it with the metal body and the build quality, I like the storage option, I like the 8th gen i5, but I am returning it because of the trackpad. It's not too bad when the trackpad is cold, but once the computer heats up, and I guarantee you it's going to heat up pretty quick, the trackpad starts to get all jittery and janky. As I showed you in the introduction of this video, drawing a straight line in MS Paint was almost impossible unless I used 2 fingers. If you're the kind of gamer who's going to be mostly using a mouse, this probably won't affect you. Also, in day-to-day use, I did notice occasional lockups. Now, I'm not sure if that was due to Windows updating or some other factors, but for me, the Windows experience just didn't feel as smooth as it could be, or even as smooth as my older Surface Pro 2. That made me question the longevity of this laptop. Overall though, if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper with the GTX 1050 in it, this might be a decent option, but do keep in mind there may be some caveats or quality control issues. It's tough to say who this laptop is really for because Acer is trying to appeal to gamers with the GTX 1050, but the 8 gigs of RAM is kind of a big limitation, especially for people who are going to be playing some heavier games or doing video editing. So I don't know if I'd really recommend it unless you can put up with the caveats of the screen not being the best, the trackpad not being the best. You know, all these little touches that really make your laptop experience great. This one just misses on a couple of those finer points. Also, if you do end up buying it, I recommend buying one of them little laptop cooling pads just to help you out. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or would like me to run any benchmarks on this before I send it back to Amazon, please let me know below and I'll see what I can do.